Prudent investing takes courage and a belief in the capital markets, but courage comes from knowledge, and that's why Scott and I teach these classes, learning and knowing how wealth is truly created. These are the things that I'm going to be going over the rest of the class, the things that we believe create wealth. Population increases, economic freedom, knowledge and collaboration, and mutating science and technology. Which brings us to economic freedom. Economic freedom is a huge, huge part of creating wealth. Economic freedom has been linked to higher incomes, higher longevity, lower infant mortality, better education, cleaner air and water, and increased life satisfaction. And the good news too is economic freedom has been increasing, but a lot of the world is still not free.
Every day, men and women around the globe go to work, each with the same goal, to prosper. But what's not the same is the degree of economic freedom each country offers to its people. Every year, the Heritage Foundation ranks almost every country by its economic freedom, and the results are pretty interesting. The index uses data from sectors like business, trade, governance, and policy to generate a score, with 100 being the most free. Countries that score high are those that have a business-friendly tax code and governments that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. In addition to enjoying higher levels of financial prosperity, people in these free societies live longer, have better health, are more educated, and surprisingly are better protectors of the environment. The good news is that in the past 2 decades, global economic freedom has been increasing.
It has. If you look at the orange and the red and the yellows, that's the parts that aren't free. It's a vast swath of the world. That tells me there's a huge amount of room for growth and improvement. And if you look at the greens, and the light greens and the dark greens, that's where most of the wealth is concentrated, right? Europe, North America, Australia, Chile. If that's not the case for economic freedom, I don't know what is. I don't know what the leaders of these other countries are thinking. Maybe they just want to have that grip on power and they feel it as a threat to their wealth. But if they just create economic freedom for their nation, prosperity would abound. This was Berlin. We just had an anniversary there, but for 41 years you had East Berlin and West Berlin. And you had the economic freedom and the communist part of it. So this is 30 years later. This was November 9th, 2019.
It was 30 years ago tonight, and I will always remember when the Berlin Wall came down and thousands of East Germans poured across the border to be united with their fellow citizens. It was a process that led to the end of the Soviet Empire. Looking back, it's sometimes hard to believe it happened at all.
Good evening, live from the Berlin Wall on the most historic night in this wall's history.
Suddenly, the most forbidding symbol of the Cold War came tumbling down. No match for people who just wanted the chance to experience true freedom.
They just wanted to experience freedom. Give me freedom and I can do things. I can work hard. I can create things for my family and my friends and do things. When there's economic freedom, prosperity follows. This was Berlin in 1984. This is Berlin 2020. What a difference. And it's not just Berlin, but it's cities like London and New Delhi and Brazil and Madrid and Amsterdam and Vienna, Rome, Tokyo, New York. Look at the wealth creation that's happened in New York in the last 100 years. Hong Kong. People are fighting for their freedom in Hong Kong right now. And we're seeing all the young people, the students in the streets, right? But we're finding out it's the older generation that's supporting the younger generation, big time behind the scenes, because they had the freedom and they don't want the young ones to lose that freedom. Wealth creation and prosperity cannot happen without our ability to protect and defend our freedom. Without our armed forces, we would have nothing. I have no doubt that if we didn't have our U.S. military, we would be invaded tomorrow and all the evil people would take our stuff and take our freedoms away. No doubt in my mind. So thank you for all of you that did serve to protect and defend our freedom. But we need money to get the stuff like the drones and the tanks and the stealth bombers to defend and protect our freedoms, our individual rights, our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. We hear a lot about the fake news nowadays, but there's a lot of really good news. And without this freedom of the press, we have to keep our government accountable. It's important. Our right to vote, and of course, our economic freedom. Freedom allows free markets to flourish and wealth created and prosperity to follow. People, when free to trade with each other, are succeeding where decades of government schemes have failed.